As part of efforts to address the safety and security concerns associated with motorcycles, popularly known as Okadas here in Nigeria, the Ekiti state government has entered into partnership with Metro Africa Express, Max.Ng. Max.Ng are one of the leading mobility platforms in the country focused on Nigeria and also beyond Nigeria, West Africa. The state is working with Max.Ng to transform informal motorcycle and tricycle operations in the state for transportation. While CHINEDU AZODOH, the founder and CGO of Max.Ng, joins us now to discuss this in more detail. CHINEDU, many thanks for joining us on Newsday today. When I heard this news that Ekiti State had partnered with Max.Ng, I said, brilliant, this is a great way to really make a good change. Can you give us, or can you elaborate on this partnership and what we can expect?
So thank you, Leila, for giving us the chance to go into this. I think the key thing to talk about here is what we're doing as a company in partnership with the state is to help them, develop identity for drivers, help them do a lot of work around safety training, build out a proper social infrastructure like things like health insurance, and essentially provide visibility between the government and these drivers. This effectively will help formalize that industry and bring the drivers, give them access to better social infrastructure, better financial capability, and essentially give them access to finance. And essentially, long term, what that then does is it gives drivers a path to ownership and helps them become effectively wealthier. So it's a really interesting and a super robust project, and we're really excited to be doing this with the Ekiti State government.
All right, CHINEDU, I've been following your progress. Of course, I was excited when This Day Style actually featured you and some others as the young prospects in entrepreneurship to look out for. And a lot has happened between then and now, especially what has happened in Lagos State. Of course, being that Max.Ng were one of the few companies that actually came up with this Okada model for ride-hailing in Nigeria. Now, talk to us. How has been business over the past months, especially Lagos State literally pulling the rug off the feet of Max.Ng?
I mean, so it's been challenging, but it's a transition process, right? Government makes decisions based off of what government feels, right? And with the information Lagos State as a government had in front of them, they felt that was the best decision to make. Obviously, we hope for some kind of change down the line, but we respect that. Now, part of what we're doing now in other states is to essentially do some of the work that will provide better data and access to governments so that they see some of what we see. So, for example, what are the accident rates for drivers? What have we done as an organization to keep those numbers down? How do we help drivers grow? Because, the people who drive motorcycles and drive kekes and drive all these other vehicles are human beings just like us, right? And they have needs, they have families, they have dependents. The average person, I think, has about 5 to 7 dependents. So they have a lot of people who actually have all these needs, right? So the past couple months have been a lot of, learning, understanding, and, really building to solve some of these critical problems and understanding the role that, different stakeholders play and how we work and manage those people. So it's been an experience.
All right, CHINEDU, the state has approximately 100,000 motorcycle ride operators and tricycle operators. You intend to formalize the transportation industry. The reason the Ekiti State Mobility Transformation Project was launched. What's this all about?
So if you think about it today, you have, let's say, 100,000 drivers who are working informally, right? And there's no form of identity. What that also means is if the government wants to go on a social projects, for example, to help, provide access to people, to healthcare or whatever, there's no real database that they can reference. There's no information. You don't know who these people are. There's also a security problem, right? Because if you have people who are driving and working in your state and you can't account for them, you don't know if they're residents, you don't know who they are. If they start to kidnap people on the road, you don't know, right? So the core thing with formalization, or at least with what we're trying to do with the government, is really about helping organize and provide support. We're not removing anyone from the market. We're not kicking anyone out. The key thing we're doing is empowering them, right? Because once you start to have identity, when you know who these people are, they have ID cards, it allows governments to start to streamline things like how do they actually go about taxation. So you have all these concerns with multiple taxation happening. Things like this help solve that problem, right? There's also the question of access to finance. So the business that we've run in other cities, we've helped Okada drivers, keke drivers gain access to capital to be able to purchase vehicles or gain access to vehicles and pay for them over a given period of time. if you don't know who people are, if you can't establish identity, you cannot provide those kind of services or values, right? And there's also the impact of things like health insurance and workers' compensation insurance or workers' employment compensation programs, right? You can't do those kinds of things if you don't know who these people are. So we need to know, the government needs to know who these people are to be able to provide the kind of support that they need, right? And that would then allow folks and so the work that we do is to help do that. And that would then make it easier for even banks, for example, to come in and even do lending to them. So it's a really good opportunity for the drivers.
I think it's a brilliant opportunity. I mean, when I read that they would be able to access health insurance, life insurance, vehicle financing, it all made sense because you're putting people into a database that they weren't in before, and they should be there. We do have to round up this conversation, but just before we go, when can we expect this project to kick off? And CHINEDU, have the relevant stakeholders, especially the Okada and Keke drivers, the tricycle and bicycle drivers in Ekiti State, have they been carried along?
So mostly they have been. Part of what we've done is, with these kinds of things, it's always a continuous process, right? So we've set up an office out there. We're spending a lot of time out in Ekiti and, meeting with the drivers, meeting with the unions, meeting with government officials and making sure that everyone has clarity. We will kick off as soon as we're comfortable enough that all stakeholders are fully aligned before we go ahead. But we're quite excited about this. It's a lot of progress and we're excited.
All right, CHINEDU, we want to say thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
Wish you and your company the very best.
Thank you very much, sir.